been looking at it.
Welcome into the middle of it. I'm Jeb Hart here with y'all on this Tuesday, the 26th. I'm happy to be here with you. I got Clayton Harris in the studio, and I got Ron Hart, my father, not in the studio, in his home, and we got Jason Gillum here. A little run over from three dudes, a little to unpack and a little to address. We had Memorial Day yesterday, and a lot of remembrance and different things. But there's, we'll do a decompression session from our previous show. I'll let y'all hop in. Y'all were talking about a few things that I was trying to tell y'all to shut the hell up about to talk about on the radio. So do it now.
Yeah, you're talking about Jeremy Thompson.
That's great.
Go ahead, Jason. Retired.
Yeah, well, we were kind of bled over from a previous conversation on the last show, and we were talking about the 9th congressional district here in the state of Tennessee and some of the candidates that are running for those seats. I brought up a new name, Jeremy Thompson, who is going to be running in the 9th, and I have yet to meet him personally. We spoke briefly on the phone. He is a Navy SEAL. He's retired, obviously, from the
I don't
military.
think so. I'm sorry. It doesn't say Navy SEAL here. It says U.S. Army Sergeant First Class, retired.
Okay, well, like I said, I thought
Military.
it was
Yeah,
ex-military. I apologize for misspeaking. I thought I was told he was a SEAL, but maybe not. Like I said, I haven't got to meet him yet. Okay, so he's ex-military. He's a businessman. He owns a business here in Middle Tennessee in Fayetteville. And he's not ever served before, but the locals there in Fayetteville love him. They think he's a great guy. I've been hearing from others in our state executive committee that have been talking about him. Now, obviously, he is not the only candidate in the 9th by any means. We've got actually in that race Charlotte Bergman. She's from the Memphis area, Republican. African-American lady who seems to be well liked, and then you've got Brent Taylor, who currently sits in the state house, the state senate, and he's served in that role for a few years now. And then you've got Todd Warner, who is in the state house, is one of our representatives, and a fellow named Kevin Young, who I don't know anything about at all.
And Jason,
at any rate,
Jason, according to Scott Sapicki, Brent Taylor is expected to receive the Trump and Marsha endorsement for that seat. I don't know if you've heard that or not.
Yes, I have heard that, and it's interesting because that endorsement was almost right out of the gate.
Yes, yes.
Before all the candidates, really anybody knew who they were, it was like, okay, this guy's already Brent Taylor's.
Do they have a
already
history, or is it a funding thing to where
They do have a history, Jeb. He ran against Marsha in the past for Congress, I believe it was back in 2000 and was it 2003? I'm blanking out here. I'd have to go back and look.
I'd have been in 8th grade, so I cannot fact check for you.
yeah.
There's a cute girl on the bus next to me. Her name was Alex, and I was trying to work that, so I was not really worried about the congressional race at the time.
I get it. But I do know he lives in Eads. Yeah, I know he lives in Eads, Tennessee, and he owned Senator Taylor owned several funeral homes, I believe, in that area.
Eads.
In that area.
What is the deal with Memphis politics and funeral homes?
I don't know.
You meet everybody in the community. You're good business. You have a suit.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
It's just a weird overlap of concentric circles that tends to run throughout a long period of that. Yeah. The history.
Oaks and Nichols for Andy Ogle's seat. Oaks and Nichols.
Oaks and Nichols just sold, by the way.
They're all being rolled up. Most of them now. That's the model.
But it sure
did.
Did.
Good business today. Almost monopoly. You go in there. I mean, I hate to say it, I don't like monopoly, but funeral homes tend to be. You're bereft, and you go in there, you're bereaved, and you go in there, and they say, well, this casket here, $7,000. I mean, did he mean something to you or not? I mean, it's like it's a pressure.
All right, so I can tell y'all, okay, there's a way to fix that. So when I was a child, Ronnie ran over our dog Mulligan.
Well,
and it was a mistake. It was not purposeful. He didn't care for the dog, but that's beside the point. Um, so he had to get a hip replaced on this little Karen Terrier, and they had already done the surgery apparently, and they were on the phone with him, and they were like, "It's going to cost $8,000," and he was like, "Just put it down." And they were like, "Wait." He like was negotiating. They had already done it, and he was like, "No, just this is
No
that
one had ever
dog's trying to
said
buy
no
this."
to a dog. Yeah, there was like, yeah. And I said, I'm going to take him to another vet and shop. They said they're the same price. And I called my HMO. I said, if I break my leg, what's my HMO? My own personal human being broken leg reimbursement was $650. So how in the world can a dog be? I think it's more like five, Jeb. But how can a dog be 5,000 and a human leg $600? That's that. You guys should be ashamed of yourself. You're playing on people's emotions. And we had
Yep.
that discussion. Yeah.
And they had already done the surgery, and he was like, "Yeah, just put it down. I'm not paying."
Oh my God.
Then we
And we got the
negotiated down
dog back.
about we negotiated down to $650. That's how the free market system works.
Clayton, it wasn't or isn't Oaks and Nichols Funeral Home the oldest continuing operating business in the state?
I'm not sure
It's
about
been
the state, but I know it is in Murray County. I think
it's
since
been there since 18.
1846, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah.
That's
18
incredibly impressive.
continuously running since 1846.
Same family start to finish.
I'm not sure. I know
No.
that I don't think so. I know that the the Sows have owned that funeral home as long as I've been alive.
They sold it to a
And
gentleman out of Lebanon, if I'm not mistaken, Jason, who owns a couple
The
of funeral-
country or the town?
the town,
I
Lebanon.
got you.
Okay, very
Yeah.
big difference.
So, but my understanding is Matt's going to stay on. Matt Sal is kind of the face of the operation. So,
is he?
yes.
Yeah.
So we were
Well,
talking
that's a
about
good deal. All right.
we were talking about the death penalty thing with Scatman Carruthers and a few things earlier. I have a this is the place to put out dumb questions. Why in God's like killing somebody is pretty straightforward. You can shoot them with a gun. You can do. I'm trying to. It's a bit callous. Why do we make this whole rigmarole around doing it? Like the electric chair is the most complicated and like it messes up a ton. It's not human. Why do we go this route when you could just like I don't
Firing
get it.
squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Trusting
understand.
decision.
Like it's not that hard of it. It's not like we haven't cracked the code on how to stop somebody from existing.
South
We
Carolina
did that.
still uses it. Utah still uses it. Speaking of the firing squad, I believe this was supposed to be lethal injection. My question is, they got the first vein immediately. The second vein, the person that was doing it had not run a line in 13 years.
Oh my goodness.
That almost kind of seems intentional, if you ask me. That's just my
Yeah.
personal opinion.
And do we hire
Right.
somebody a full-time job to run vein things and he had one thing to do in 13 years? I
Yeah.
mean, I cut that cost. I cut his salary. You know, the firing squad thing I used to like about this was they had six people in the firing squad and they'd have two blanks and four real bullets. And there was always some doubt in their mind whether they, down the road, if they ever had any relapses or whatever, they killed him.
Right.
Well, the same thing with the
Right.
lethal
Right.
injection. The switches, it's hit by three people. You don't know which one is the one that actually is putting. So it's a bit of you push off your emotional responsibility for it, and you don't know if you actually did it. But I mean, I just the amount of time, money, and I think that's the thing that I was trying to talk to Delk about was just like each one of these appeals with a public defender, the trial, the housing, the jail, it's just more money of taxpayers to kick a can down the road that we all know is going to go how it's going to go. Like they did the thing. Like in some cases, like it's on video. In some cases, they confessed. And some like I understand the reason behind adhering to the constitutional ability for appeals and not hanging somebody by the river, but there has to be a middle ground to where
And
we're
if
not
you're in
wasting
prison,
money.
Jeb, and you murder somebody, you're on death row, you got to be the biggest badass in prison because no one will mess with you because you got nothing to lose. Meaning, okay, I got a murder
Right.
sentence, 3 months ahead. So if I kill you, that'll be a backlog, which maybe actually make the guy live longer. You
Well, yeah,
know,
because they have to do the trial for the person that he shanked in prison. That's a whole different thing, and then that's a new trial and a new thing that had to be held. I don't know the answer for it. I'm not an attorney, but I was so Delk was talking about the thing with Carruthers and that he represented him. I didn't know that, and he got him off on shooting a woman. I didn't. Is he in there? Because I do want to know
He,
what his defense was for
Del,
getting
he just left. He just left. But
the
he's told me
defense for getting him off for shooting a woman in the back 5 times who was running away, and he got him 6 months. I want to know how he pulled that off. Um,
he probably just cut a deal with the Shelby County prosecutor's office. If we're going to be honest about it, it's out. Did he say if she died or not?
he did not. Uh,
Mhm.
I feel like he would have.
I don't think. Yeah,
I would have. Well, let's put a pin in that. But shooting someone in the back 5 times, they're running away and they're getting away. But then
Delk was a fine lawyer. There was a person that basically um, there was a sodomy case, I think, in Memphis, and Delk got the guy off with following too closely,
is this
tailgating.
with the chickens?
It's
I've heard this story. Yeah,
old joke.
yeah.
it's sadly funny. Uh, it's morbidly funny. But I just the idea of like we went from the last use of the guillotine.
I actually saw this the other day.
What? Revolutionary France?
It was in the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, where?
France.
Yeah.
The guillotine sounds so brutal, but it's obvious. It's honestly the cleanest, quickest, fastest way
100%.
Yeah.
to
100%.
end someone.
I mean, I think the electric chair and lethal injection are us over engineering something that's the simplest thing in the world.
Right.
Well, yeah,
That we,
but you also want to be a public spectacle to act as a deterrent, right? I think more than half of the death penalty is to get rid of the person they will never murder again, and you don't spend 100 grand a year in prison for their life. And secondly, you send a message to the next person contemplating murder, that gruesome image in their head of someone dying because of it may be a deterrent. You look at the BKT,
it's
murder.
less. It's the some of them are practical, some of them are not. But it's the death penalty is significantly less of a deterrent just based on research than you would think. Because if you're going to kill people, especially at scale, you're not really thinking about the second, third, fourth order effects of your actions. You're just not all there. So it doesn't function as the deterrent for the person who would actually do it. It functions as a deterrent for the people who would never do it and say that that's bad.
Well, I don't know, some deterrent, I think. But you're, I don't know. I haven't seen the study,
I
but
think
most of
that
them
if
are
they
emotional and they're in the moment sometimes on most murders.
right.
There's not too many serial killers anymore. What's happened to serial killers? We really, as a nation, need to really kind of floundered in that space the last 10
Well,
years.
so I mean, the first article, if I correct me if I'm wrong, Ron, the first article you ever wrote was about the media coverage of the DC sniper
Yeah. Well, no.
and like how it like pumped it up and made it a whole thing. And we give serial killers these really cool nicknames like the Night Stalker or the
Yeah.
Son of Sam. If it was like the Tiny Penis Killer,
Yeah, it should demean him.
like
Yeah. Well, Luigi,
just
Luigi's been
he's
purple.
definitely
Yeah.
compensating for something murderer.
Yeah.
Along
Bad
Ron's
breath.
point though, I do think that he's on to something with the fact that if these death penalties were carried out in a timely manner, a more timely fashion, where a person is convicted and the next day in the news you see that they have been, done away with. That might actually be more of a deterrent than somebody committing a crime and it be in court for 20 years and everybody's already forgotten the individual and the
Right.
crime,
It's true.
and it
If you just
and then
took them out the town square and did it. Also, Jeb, I see what you're
right,
saying. No conclusive evidence death penalty is very effective in a threat, but these studies are done by the National Institute of Justice, ACLU, the Death Penalty Information Center. These are pretty biased people doing these studies. It's not like MAGA does a study or whatever. These are pretty
Cato did
left-wing
one.
studies.
Mississippi did one. When they were at the same time they were doing their new literacy program, they did like a kind of a deep dive into like what makes Mississippi Mississippi. and the death penalty was part of it. And their research was trying to decide, like, is this helpful? Not, is it wrong? It wasn't a moral thing. It was just a black and white. Does it do anything?
Right.
And
Hey,
if you're a person who's going to kill people, getting killed is less of a deterrent than a rational person would think.
But you guys were just talking a minute ago about how, you know, the death penalty kind of creates this scenario where people kind of see what the result of that kind of a heinous crime would be. But I would argue that you need to put the public death penalty. You need to put the public back in public death penalty. Like if you, like Delk was saying, if you hang somebody down by the river, and people actually see that, they're not going to do it. And I know it sounds cruel and maybe over the top, but
it's interesting because we try in the same way that we use the same way that we use the electric chair, because we reverse engineered or tried to somehow be more civil in the most uncivil thing.
Exactly.
We tried too hard to make something like you're killing somebody. It is rough business. Full stop. There is no delicate nature to it.
Nope.
Now, the point being, what is it that you're trying to accomplish by the death penalty? Is it deterrence? Is it punishment? Is it all of the above? So do that. Don't make it some like legal paperwork thing to where you have to. I mean, I remember there was a story somewhere, I think it was Oklahoma, about they couldn't do a death penalty because they didn't have alcoholic swabs for the lethal injection.
There's people probably throwing up roadblocks all the time. I think you should make them go live with Joy Behar for like a month.
They kill themselves.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
I mean, I'd watch that show, like a little Big Brother camera.
It could be cruel and unusual punishment. That's your risk on that one.
Yeah, just make them go to the View for just one episode.
There's constitutional issues there. There's constitutional issues we got to make sure we get out in front of, because that is cruel and unusual, and we don't want to start that precedent. That's wrong.
I'd choose a guillotine.
Hey, Jeb, I'm not trying to shift gears on you here, but I while we got everybody, I'm just kind of curious. I'm gonna ask a question if you don't mind, which is, what are y'all's thoughts on what happened over the weekend at the White House? You had Trump coming out saying a deal was almost done. You had J.D. Vance being rushed back. And then all of a sudden, you hear these reports of Netanyahu's hair's on fire. He's pissed off because he wasn't involved in the negotiations. And now everything seems to have stalled again.
He also missed his son's wedding down in Bahamas.
That's true.
Donald Jr.'s wedding. I thought something was either we're going to bomb them or there was a deal to be done. It's going to be a frustrating deal with these jerks over there. I mean, you don't know. I think they just need to bomb them again, maybe, or stay in the Strait, because you're not going to get an honest deal with these people. They're not going to get an honest deal. Who are you kidding? He's used to dealing with people in New York and business deals where you got people relatively honorable and you had asset transfers and we have a deal done, you have a contract, and you have escrow. These people they don't think that way.
They also don't have the power to do it.
Right.
So the question is, if you were talking to somebody who is negotiating, quote unquote, in good faith, do they have the ability to actually do what they say they're doing? And in this case, it's so fractured that it's impossible to know. The IRGC is broken up into, they went into their fracture protocol after the bombings, which is each individual platoon or battalion, depending on how they're broken up, has autonomy to do whatever they want, which is why those random bombings and drone strikes and stuff were happening just like on like a Tuesday morning for some reason. And they're like, what's happening? It was just some dude who was in charge of some battalion who had a button to do it. So we have to recognize that it is a fractured situation that we're trying to deal with. And I think that there is no diplomatic version of this. There isn't some sit down at a table.
Yeah.
You agree, I agree.
It's not going to be like signing Appomattox. It's not going to be Appomattox. It's going to be, and they need to
one's turning over swords.
Scott Bassett's really good, the gay Treasury Secretary, and they just sent him over to negotiate with the gay Ayatollah. And the winner gets to marry Liza Minnelli. Let's do that.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I obviously, President Trump, excuse the analogy, he's playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers. He's there's so much at play here that doesn't make mainstream media, because quite frankly, I'm not sure that mainstream media can even comprehend what's going on a global scale. And it's going to be interesting to see. But obviously, I think this prolonged presence in Iran has a lot to do with pressures that he's trying to put to bear on China. And so there's just so much going on.
Strait of Malacca, the joint military agreement that was done there, that was a part of all this, the bond market and the ability to renegotiate that, have it still be on the petrodollar.
Right.
Like the amount of things between Cuba, Venezuela, restructuring the Western Hemisphere, all of it plays
Yes,
together, and
it
it is
does.
not. It does not make a good clickbait headline to discuss the fact that the Strait of Malacca, which is not in any way addressed to this, is the pipeline for all of the energy that goes to Asia, China more specifically. And we have a deal with the Philippines in order to help, and Malaysia to help facilitate that in our involvement. That also, we stopped the Panama Canal from being taken over by China. Like, all of these things are part of it's
Right. The
all
big picture.
it's
Yeah,
all a thing. So
absolutely.
people are trying to talk about it like it's one thing. It's not one
It's
thing.
not.
I,
It's not. Just like after Trump met with Xi Jinping in China, Vladimir Putin, who never goes anywhere.
Mhm.
The minute that Trump is left,
Right after.
he's flying over to China. And why? Because he wants to know what's being negotiated, what's happening. And here's the great thing about it: President Trump's not telling anybody anything. He's like, well, maybe we'll do this, maybe we won't, and he's doing that intentionally, because he's not going to lay his cards on the table so that the international forces can get together and work toward figuring out a way to circumvent what the United States is trying to do. So it like you said, it's a huge play.
You
It's
could be the
not
good
just
cop,
one
bad
object.
cop too, Jason. They could go in there and do they let Israel be the bad cop, we be the good cop.
Yes.
Let Israel go light them
I,
up. So
I, I-
Netanyahu, you're a war hawk. We give
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
3.8 billion a year. Y'all go light them up. We'll sit in the strait with our boats. If they touch us, we'll light them up. But
Right.
I
oh,
tell you,
look,
I tell you what was interesting. I don't know if you guys saw this over the weekend, but apparently there was a report came out that Ahmadinejad, the former president of Iran, was allegedly, and it
He's
could
alive?
possibly still be, the guy that they installed to take over. Have you heard this?
Real.
I didn't know
No.
he was alive.
Yes, he is alive. They actually intentionally did not kill him. And
well, are
it,
they
it,
dealing with
it
the parliament there, or are they dealing with the mullahs? And that's the problem. You got a
right.
theocracy.
We blew up the Council of Experts because they decided to not meet on Zoom. They were like, you know what? Everybody got bombed. Here's a great idea. Let's all get together in one place. Let's really consolidate. And yeah, so that was their version of parliament. The only actual elected thing they had in Iran was the Council of Experts, who the only way you could be on the Council of Experts was to be approved by the Ayatollah. So it wasn't actually a fair election, but they're gone. And I
You
don't
got
know
to get
what
rid of
we've been working on.
their nuclear scientists were the key. You can't have nuclear bomb unless you got somebody that knows how to put the wires together, and you start lighting them up. I mean, you can. I mean, it's very narrow. Hey, what do you do for a living? Oh, I make nuclear bombs. Well, very narrow thing. Since Hiroshima, you really hadn't been needed. But if and whoever did that for them, they got them dead. So their ability to fuse all this stuff together and enrich uranium and put it in the air and the missile, I mean, they're way away from that. So worst case, they set them back 5 years, 3 years. I don't know what it is, but
Right.
he's
Well,
not going to
once
get
they
the
have
obvious.
that, what they were talking about, like boots on the ground, one thing or another, there's different versions of how this could go, but they know where. And one of the funniest things is watching people debate about nuclear dust, and it's a term that Trump made up. Like, he made it
Yellow
up.
cake, like yellow cake, right?
No, no, nuclear dust. He made, and people were having like on CNN and MS, they're talking about like very seriously about the history of nuclear dust. It was something he made up.
Yeah, he does. I think he does a lot of times, Jeb, just to mess with them, don't make their
Yep.
hair on fire. I
They're
think he
having
does a lot of that.
philosophical and deep conversations about how wrong he is about, but they didn't even talk about the fact that he made it up. They were talking about it like, yes, obviously nuclear dust is a real thing. We shall discuss moving forward from here. And they know where it is, and it's on satellite. And they basically like,
Yeah.
if you try to look at it, we will explode you.
Yeah. We need to send over Dolly Parton and maybe Jane Fonda and put boobs on the ground.
Do not bring Dolly Parton into this.
She's an American treasure. I know she's ill and everything.
Yes,
But
but
can't
we
help but
cannot bring
like
her
We
into
said,
this.
"Okay,
She must be
Dolly,
protected."
here's our yellow cake. Here's our nuclear dust. She's a national treasure, Jeb.
Every time I hear yellow cake, I think about the Chappelle Black Bush deal. Like that was the best, one of the best. Well, it wasn't the best. It was one of the best skits though over on that show.
Getting in the yellow cake too. Do we know? I mean, honestly, I've asked the general this in a meeting one time. Do we really know that they can do these bombs? I mean, I think about Iraq or Afghanistan, yellow cake, weapons of mass. We get lied to all the time by Netanyahu. I don't trust. Our CIA, I don't trust. Tulsi Gabbard just resigned, which says her husband, but I don't know. She didn't see something. And that guy that goes on Kent, who goes on Tucker's show. I mean, I don't know that. I just want to make sure that we're going in there. They really have the ability to do it, because a lot of times they flex. They don't have the ability to do a nuclear bomb. They want to tell everybody they can, so no one messes with them. So I wonder how much is flex and how much is reality.
That's geopolitics. Just at its core is, trying to present yourself in the strongest manner possible. In their case, from a defensive side, and we are going to go to break, and we can discuss that in due course. If y'all want to look up at the break when we hacked the Iranian nuclear facility with a flash drive so that everything broke. We shall tell the tale on our return. We'll see y'all in just a few.
This is Coach Tredaris Dawg from Columbia Central High School football. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
Hi, I'm Robert Rogers at Parks Motor Sales Buick GMC.
And I'm Michael Parks Lawrence at Parks Motor Sales Buick GMC.
Together, we're Mr. Bobby Parks' grandsons, and we run his dealership, and we are glad to be part of our local community.
Being family owned and operated, we invest heavily in our community.
We do things like sports teams, schools, bands, you name it. We try to help everybody we can.
The reason why we do this is because we all love this community.
So come do business with us, your neighbors, at Parks Motor Sales in Columbia, Tennessee, right off Nashville Highway, or at parksmotorsales.com.
Let's talk custom design jewelry. Did you know Tillis Jewelry in downtown Columbia creates custom design jewelry and has been for over 30 years? From one-of-a-kind engagement rings to wedding bands and so much more. We want each piece to be as unique as you are and create a family heirloom for tomorrow. Call today and make an appointment with one of our designers. And just for calling, you will receive a free 30-minute consultation. Tillis Jewelry, creating custom jewelry proudly in Tennessee.
Hi, Jimmy here for Columbia Ace Hardware. Columbia Ace Hardware now carries Magnolia Home by Joanna Gaines paint. Now their premium quality and huge selection of colors will be right in your neighborhood, along with the award-winning service and advice Columbia Ace has always provided for your paint projects. Around the block, what you need in stock, with people who know their paint. Columbia Ace, the helpful place.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Do you have trees that need trimming or removed? Do you have stumps that you want grounded? A1 Tree Trimming and Removal is a family-owned and operated business local to Columbia and Lewisburg. They also service surrounding Middle Tennessee. We are licensed and insured and provide free estimates. No job is too big, no tree is too small. Give old Luke a call or text Luke at 931-359-3113. Or you can check them out on Facebook and tell A1 Tree Removal that you heard this ad on the radio. If you love America, then you will love A1 Tree Removal.
You're not just a homeowner, you're also an ice maker that didn't read the job description owner. Fortunately, you've got heating and cooling built and tested to keep going. American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning, built to a higher standard.
Call Davis Heating and Cooling at 931-388-2090 for all your home comfort needs. Davis Heating and Cooling is your local independent American Standard dealer and proudly serves the Murray County area. Find Davis Heating and Cooling online and on Facebook or call today, 388-2090.
This is Debbie Matthews with the Nashville Realty Group, and if you've been paying attention, you know the housing market has been tough, but rates are beginning to thaw. So if you're thinking about selling, the time to jump in is getting better every day. But if you're thinking about buying and those interest rates are still a little bit too high, a good agent knows how to negotiate interest rate buydowns, and I'm a good agent. So call me, Debbie Matthews with Nashville Realty Group, 615-476-3224.
Hi, I'm Matt Perales, manager of Murray County Equipment. We help you with all your agriculture and construction equipment needs. We carry a full line of New Holland tractors from compacts to high horsepower. We have a full line of Gravely mowing equipment. We also have New Holland construction equipment, attachments, and accessories for your tractors and a complete parts department. We are locally owned and operated. Come see us at 1075 North James Campbell Boulevard or learn about us on Facebook or contact us at 931-490-8183.
This is Trip Stoltz with Columbia Ace Hardware. I love listening to 101.7 WKOM FM, Columbia, Tennessee.
Welcome back into the middle of it. I'm Jeb Hart, happy to be with y'all here on this Tuesday the 26th. I got Jason Gillum, Ron Hart, and Clayton Harris with me here today.
Hey, Hey, Jeb, I gotta ask you, do you know what Jason's full-time job is? Do you know what he does for a living?
I do.
I feel like once you say it, I know because he's brought it up before, and now I'm forgetting, and I'm bouncing in my head. I went to pilot because I know that that's what the previous chair of the Republican Party does.
No.
And now I'm blanking.
No, you were correct. Jason's the pilot.
Okay, so I was right.
Southwest Airlines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got, I got you, Jeb. You know where I'm going with this. You know I have some questions for Jason at some point.
Proceed.
Jason, have you ever seen anything crazy up in the air that you just couldn't put your finger on?
Yes.
Really?
I have. Yes, I have.
How many?
It's happened twice.
It's
happened twice in a 35-year career. 2 times, both out west. Once over Nevada and the other over Arizona. It was both times at night, and it involved seeing lights at extremely high altitudes. The thing is when you're flying along at 41,000 feet at night, it's hard to have reference when you're looking up into space, right? You see a light, you can't really determine whether that light is, 3,000 feet away or 300,000 feet away, or 300,000 miles away. You just don't, there's nothing to get any scale, to measure against. But what seemed to be extremely high altitudes, maybe in space, I don't know, but lights moving at very rapid rates, much faster than anything human, and very sporadic. Do
you report that when you're on, do you call it in and be like, what is that? And is there a response?
On one of the events, I was actually sharing airspace with a Delta Airlines flight. We were on the same frequency. So we were, although I couldn't see the Delta plane, he had to be with somewhere around 200 nautical miles from me or closer because we were on the same frequency. And he saw it too. So it wasn't just us. They were seeing the same thing. And like I said, the lights were moving at very rapid rates, very sporadic. There was no just linear movement. It would move like horizontally for what seemed like a few thousand feet. It would stop and then it would just shoot vertically, and it would disappear and reappear. And so I've seen that specific type of event 2 different times in 35 years, and I have no idea what it is. I cannot explain it, but it's nothing that I'm aware that we have the capability to do that with. I don't know.
Is there a protocol on that? Like I said, like the Delta plane saw it as well. We're talking on the radio. Like when you land, do you like write a report of like, I saw something pretty crazy? Does it go
No,
up? Do you
no,
have to talk to like a government official to be like, I saw a crazy thing? Like, what's the
no,
chain of
no.
events?
No, we queried ATC. We asked ATC if I said, hey, are you seeing anything on radar? But the problem with that is ATC's radar is limited to 60,000 feet. That's what's called positive airspace, positively controlled airspace. It stops at 60,000 feet. So when you get above that 60,000 foot level, primarily the only thing that you're going to have up there flying are military aircraft. I'm going to use an old example, but like the SR-71, although
Speed
it's
check one?
still class. Yeah, right. It's still classified, but we believe that airplane had the capability to fly up to about 120,000 feet. Now, I don't know that specifically, but we know that it could go well above the positively controlled airspace. And there's other airplanes out there that can do it, military aircraft that can do it and do it every day. So they're not on radar. So when you ask them, they say, "Well, we don't see anything. What are you seeing?" They always ask, "Well, what are you seeing?" And you explain it, and that's about as far as it ever goes.
Exactly. I guess that's interesting to have the first person perspective on, because I guess a lot of people who wonder about those things assume like you see that you and the guy in the Delta plane 200 something miles away see the same thing, and then you figure you land and like somebody in a black suit comes up and is like, go in that room, we gotta talk. Like
Yeah,
there's an
yeah,
assumption, but I
yeah.
guess the normalization of it of like, that's crazy, right?
Well, hey,
Anyway,
listen,
moving
right
on.
now, I'll tell you right now, and this is something that's recent. It has been explained to me by multiple other pilots who I guess have researched this issue. But here in the last month, one of my trips that I've done multiple times is the red eye from San Francisco. So we take off at about 10:30 p.m. San Francisco time, which is 1:30 a.m. here, and fly back to Nashville on the nonstop. So I land in Nashville at just after 5 a.m. Well, along that route of flight, when you get around Denver, over the Rockies, and from Denver almost to the time that you land in Nashville, when you look to the north, you can see these lights that are extremely bright, and they appear and then they disappear, and they're moving at high rates of speed. You can tell because I'm flying across the ground at 600 knots, and so these things are outpacing me 4 or 5 times, right? And then they go away and then they come back. And I'm like, what is this? What am I looking at? I'm like just staring, and I've seen them many times now. And it's been explained to me that they are satellites over the pole that are they're not geostationary satellites. Obviously they move, and they move in like this figure eight position, and there's multiple satellites, and so the light we're seeing is the sun reflecting off of them at one moment, because you can imagine how
Bounces.
high up these. Yeah, it's so the light's hitting off of it, it bounces, and as they're maneuvering and changing position, the light goes away. But man, you talk about playing with your mind. You're like, is that really a satellite? No, that's not a satellite. That's something. What is that? And like I say, there's multiple satellites that are doing this. And 3 months ago, the first time I ever saw it, I was like, holy cow, what am I looking at? And so after researching it, that's what I've come up with. They're actually satellites that are up there to help, communicate around the world.
Well, now we are on
Supposedly.
aliens and other interesting things from a pilot's perspective, has been doing it for 30 plus years. There is I went down a deep rabbit hole of people who are flat earthers because I find it fascinating that it's something that people truly believe. I don't understand the methodology, and some of the things that they use as evidence is that flights don't go over the north. Like, I know it's ridiculous. Could you explain why it's ridiculous? Because it is, but like from a pilot's perspective who
Listen,
does
I have
traverse the world.
conversations. Right. Listen. I have conversations on social media with these flat earthers all the time, and it boggles my mind. But yeah. So here's the thing, right? I've flown around the world. My first airline job was with Trans World Airlines, and one of the perks with being an airline pilot is you get very cheap or free travel. And so I can tell you that having been around the globe, um,
It is a globe.
TWA, it is a globe, and TWA, for instance, we had
Trends
two,
too.
yeah, right. We had two flights in particular, and it was Flight One and Flight Two. Our headquarters was St. Louis, and it was two 747s, and Flight One would depart St. Louis on a westerly heading, and it would literally fly around the world. It made stops along the way, but it would leave St. Louis and it would end up back in St. Louis. And Flight Two was kind of the same thing, but it left and went on an easterly heading and went around the world, right? And they ended up back in St. Louis. And so if you were to be on one of those flights, okay, you never turned around. You didn't start out on an easterly heading and then, somewhere halfway around the globe turn around and come back the other direction. You kept continuing on, in that same direction, and you ended up back in the same place you left. And I never came up upon any cliff or any ice wall or any other, of these phenomena that you hear the flat earthers talking about. It was just a flight around the world.
And the thing that's always confused me about, and like you said, first of all, I do want to know more about some of the interactions you've had on the internet. The fact that you brought that up, I do want to put a pin in that. But like this idea that we just made up science for the sake of protecting something, like NASA isn't like everybody kept the secret and was quiet. Everybody like none of it logically makes sense. But at the end of it, what is it that they're trying to in the ridiculous flat earther world? They have to be trying to protect something, but it doesn't make any sense as to what it is. We made up science and air flight and satellites and all these
I
things.
just think Yeah, I just think they got on tinfoil hats and they're coming trying to find a conspiracy. They're trying to disprove the common sense logic and the proven science that the world is actually a globe. Wouldn't it be funny if of all the planets that are in our solar system, the Earth is the only one that looks like a plate. All the other planets are round, but not the Earth.
Who's still doing that? Who's saying flat Earth? Who's the flat earthers?
Oh yeah, it's
So
amazing.
no,
They talk about
it's
the firmament. You've
Who
heard
are
the
these people?
firmament, right? We're in a glass bowl. We're like a snow globe, man.
we're
You
like a
know,
snow globe, and then the Earth rotates. It's around, and then there's an ice wall in Antarctica, which is why you can't go there. There's a lot of ridiculous statements, but so if you go back to how it started recently, so when we were really young kids, I don't know about you, but I know that there was a thought that like when Christopher Columbus like went across to try to find the route to Asia and found America, that he was scared that he might fall off the end of the world because that's not true. Everybody knew the
right,
Earth was a globe for
right,
like like from Pythagoras and before that,
right.
based on shadows and
Astronomers had already figured that out long
yeah.
before.
So that part is not so. But the issue and why we're doing it now is that because things are less tactile. So like think about like science with a tiny child. You want to explain how it works. And sometimes really complex things are really hard to like just show them in a way. And so once something becomes really hard to just explain, you're like, all right, we're on a right now I feel like I'm sitting still, but I am on a ball that's spinning. I don't
Right,
get it and I don't care for it. That's
right.
more or less what it is when you're like, well, I can explain why that's the case. However, explaining it requires a little bit more depth and understanding. People started to go back to this idea of if I cannot point to it, if I cannot explain it, it is not real.
Yeah.
Jeb, I got a question for Jason. It's more of a aviation question that I've never asked him before. How impressive was Sully's landing in the Hudson? from a pilot's perspective, was that as impressive as it seemed, or?
Well, I'm gonna look. I don't want to take away
Ooh.
from. I don't want to take away from what they accomplished, what they did. It was an amazing feat, right? There were several variables that played a part into that. Obviously, it takes skill. I mean, you have to have the know-how and the wherewithal to execute that maneuver. But to say that there wasn't some luck involved in that would be an understatement. You've got to remember how these airplanes designed, specifically like the Airbus that he was flying. You have these huge engines that are hanging underneath the wings of that aircraft, and it is very, very rare for an aircraft like that to make a water landing and those engines not act as drag chutes or some type of huge cup that would get a pitch moment where the nose would just completely slam into the water in such a manner that it would be submerged, right, and in a downward trajectory. Now, I will tell you this too, from a technical aspect, the impact on the river itself did some damage to the empennage, the aft portion of that aircraft, which helped save that airplane, because the two aft exits on that airplane, because of the fuselage damage or the empennage damage back there, were
Did it
jammed.
twist it?
Yeah, well, it put an upward force on it, so much so that it jammed the doors kind of in the door frame. And there's many locks within those doors, so when you open that handle, all these locks, it's like a safe, a door on a safe. These locks, they draw in, they pull in. Well, because of that damage, it put pressure on those doors and they could not be opened. And one of the flight attendants was attempting to open the door to execute an emergency evacuation, but the doors were jammed. And they later found that had she opened those doors, there was a good chance that the water would have rushed in and helped to sink that airplane. And as you know, it stayed afloat.
Did they have another
I have a
option?
working theory that it was all the mafia dead bodies they killed in the Hudson River.
Did they have another option?
Well,
I know you said
mean
there's luck
another
involved in
Yeah, well,
great
no,
piloting.
they literally picked the only option, and it was proven in flight tests in the simulator. They had, and it actually made it in part of the movie, and that part was factually correct. The FAA, they went back and they
Human
recreated
element.
this. Yeah, they recreated this event using the data that they had gathered both from the cockpit voice recorder and the
Birds, right? They
flight
went in
data.
for the engines, right? Birds.
Right, they did
And
everything,
this is
man.
what they do over in Tullahoma. Don't they like frozen turkeys
Yes,
into the turbines?
yes, Arnold Engineering Development Center. Yes, they do a lot of this kind of thing. So when they recreated it, they put these people in the simulator, and these people knew the event. They knew what had happened. They knew they lost an engine at this point, and they were gonna, this was the outcome. And they said, we want you to go to Teterboro. They were trying to, basically pin it on him that he made a very poor decision by going into the river when he could have landed at Teterboro, which is just a few miles from LaGuardia. It's on the north side of
Then you wouldn't have a movie.
the Jersey Shore across the river. Right. And so they made it a couple of times. They made it and said, see, you could have landed here. And then when they took the known element of the failure out, and said, okay, you don't know what's going to happen here. This is just something, we're going to give you an event. We want to see what you're going to do with it. Well, when they did that, they all crashed short of the airport in very dense populated areas. So,
Were those trials? Sorry, I apologize. Were those for
okay.
insurance reasons or
I think
government?
I think that was part of it. I think, obviously anytime you have an event like this, you have authorities who want to, prove that, it could have been done another way. You didn't have to lose an airplane in the Hudson River and total it and all this other stuff. You could have landed it, over there at Teterboro. Fortunately, nobody lost a life in this event. As a matter of fact, I don't know if y'all know this. I think I've told Clayton Harris this before, but we had a local from Columbia here that I graduated with that was on that flight.
Oh,
And
no, I didn't know that.
yeah. Valerie Smith. She went to Central High School, and she was an '89 graduate with me, and yeah, she was on the airplane. And
Mr.
so,
York's not here, so I want to inject race into this. Do you think maybe they went into the river as a racial event, knowing that blacks can't swim well? Do you think that was?
yeah,
I mean,
if
that's.
Mr. York was here, that's probably what we would be
Yeah, I
hearing.
think that's what he'd
Yes.
say. I just want to
Oh,
represent him.
that's hilarious. But no, so to go back to the original question about Captain Sullenberger, he did a phenomenal job. I would not want to have to be in his shoes and execute that maneuver. And I think that obviously skill is involved, no doubt about it. The outcome was tremendous. They didn't lose a single life. And at the end of the day, you got to give him kudos for that.
What is the squirreliest situation that you've ever been in as a pilot to where you're like, I don't know if this is going to end great?
Well, fortunately, ever since I've been with the commercial airlines flying passengers, I've not had any events. This we hear about incidents, right? Because it makes big headlines. But the fact is that there are tens of thousands of flights every single day. In the United States alone, there's over 40,000 flights per day. And so, the statistics on the safety are just out of this world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're talking fractions of a percentage point, right? But when something happens, it makes headlines.
Right.
Now I can tell. So since I've been in the airlines, I've not. It's so safe. It's such a controlled environment, and it's so scrutinized. From every level. Especially within the airline, you have all these safety standards, and everybody is trained to the nth degree. If you can't cut the mustard, you don't get the job. You don't stay in the job, and it is very, very well regulated. But in other parts of aviation, cargo and other things, and this doesn't really apply to FedEx or UPS. They are the same as any other airline, very, very regulated. But when you start talking about small cargo operations using smaller airplanes and things like that, that's kind of a different world. So to answer your question, the only time I've really been in a situation that um, and again, when you're involved in it, you don't have time to think. You react, right? You react to your training, and you do what you're taught, and you fly the airplane. And I think so many times when you hear about these crashes, and you think, well, I wonder what the pilot was thinking. Well, I can tell you what they're thinking. The only thing they're thinking about is flying the aircraft and saving the airplane. And even the second before impact, their desire is to manipulate the controls in the airplane where it makes a landing, whether it's a good landing or not. But I'd lost an engine in Nashville. This was years ago, flying a small recip airplane. It came apart on me right after takeoff, and it was when I was at the heaviest. I was loaded pretty heavy, and
you are the plane.
Yeah, right. I was loaded heavy with coffee because those freight operations we fly at night, all night, every night, and so yeah, it was a takeoff out of Nashville late at night. Had an engine.
You lose the engine, the
on
other engine is plenty powerful. You do the math, the other engine is plenty powerful to take you to altitude.
Well, yeah, I leveled off. Yeah, I leveled off at like 3,000 feet, came around and had a successful landing. Now,
what do you do when one engine goes out? Obviously, you crack with the yoke or whatever. How do you? It's just a given.
Yeah, you have to. There's some cross controlling involved, right? Because you're going to have the good engine. You're going to it's going to be pulling, and the other engine's going to be dragging you. So you have to use rudder to correct, and then you have to do some aileron input, to keep the airplane at level. So there's a little cross controlling going on, and of course, when you have two engines operating and you lose one of those engines, normally you would think, okay, well, you've just lost 50% of your power, right? 50% of your thrust. That's not necessarily the case, right? So you still have, but because of the increased power you put into the other engine, you can still maintain about 80% of your total thrust value, by increasing the good engine. But at any rate, that time. I never will forget it. It's something that's instilled in me that'll never go away because it was catastrophic. It was very fast, and I just had to react. I'll tell you another incident, and I don't mean to get gruesome, but this is the same thing in the freight world. This happened in the freight world, and this was also in Nashville, and it was with another company, not a company that I worked for, but we had a pilot that had taken off in an Aerostar, which is a twin engine aircraft. It holds, I think, 6 or 8 people. It may have held 8 people, but he had it in a freight conversion. And the Aerostar's engines, the design of that airplane, those engines are very, very forward. The propeller, the arc of the propeller is right even with the pilot, basically, that sits in the seat, right? And so this pilot took off. His clamshell door opened, obviously unintended, which was where he entered the cockpit right into his chair. He threw his arm out to grab it as it was opening, and it went right into the propeller.
Oh.
And so now listen to this. Here's the amazing part of this event. This guy made it back he landed the airplane. He made it back, but he passed away before the paramedics could get to him because of the excessive blood loss.
He lost an arm out of a window of a plane through a propeller and then landed it.
Yeah.
And landed it.
How do you do a left turn signal?
I mean, can you imagine? And so that happened, and it's amazing the things that happen in the freight world with these smaller airplanes, these recips, is much more dangerous than any airline ever thought about being, but it's still inherently safe.
Jet versus turboprop, you're saying?
Right. It's
that's the same company made the Aero Commander. Aero Commander was the kind of the King Air competitor.
I think so. Yeah, I believe the
we used to have an
Aerostar.
Aero Commander. It was loud, and the engines were right there. You could put a sound thing inside. You for an extra like 30,000. You could put a sound thing, but the Aero Commander, those engines are right up there in your ears.
Right.
One for about 5 or 8 years. 8 gas. God, I never seen anything eat much fuel. These things ate, but they were loud. I think Butch West had an Aero Commander up until they're in town, up until about 2 or 3 years ago.
Jeb, we're almost up against a break, but before we go to break, I got one more question for Jason. Jason, you and I have talked about this before off the air, but that 737 MAX 8 that had so many problems when it first came out, those problems have been fixed, and you think that's a pretty incredible airplane.
I fly it all the time. I fly that airplane more than any of the other 737 variants that we have. I flew it just 2 days ago, and it is an incredible airplane, and it got very bad press, and it's unfortunate because it really was a great aircraft right out of the box. It was a lack of training in some of these there was the lack of training in some of the third world countries, but it's my opinion now, and this is just solely Jason Gillam's opinion, that had Boeing not allowed that aircraft to be sold with one of these angle of attack computers, and we can talk more about that if you want to go into the technicality of it.
I would like to.
If they had not sold these aircraft with just that one computer, we wouldn't even be talking about this. It would have been a non-event. But because these third world countries were trying to buy these airplanes from Boeing at the absolute cheapest price they could get them, they left some of the options out. They were like, well, we don't want that. We don't need that. And I can explain in detail how that
well, let's put a pin in that. We are up against the hour. We are going to be right back, and I would love to hear more about it because I do think it's an incredibly interesting thing. It was in the news, but most people think they know it, but don't know enough. And we will find out more in just a few.
All right.
He was a was terminally pretty. She held him up.
This is Coach Trudez Dark from Columbia Central High School football. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
We at Hollins Pharmacy must be doing something right. We've been providing pharmaceutical services in the Middle Tennessee area for over 60 years. The guiding principles of our business are fast, accurate, friendly, personal service. We do not have long waiting lines, and our phone calls are answered by a staff member. We strive to get to know our customers by name, not just a date of birth or number. We are your locally owned hometown pharmacy, and we appreciate your business. We urge you to come visit us at Hollins Pharmacy, 1608 Hatcher Lane here in Columbia.
Hey, this is Derek Ransom with 10 Pin Alley, voted #1 family entertainment center in Murray County. We offer 32 bowling lanes, giant arcade, laser tag, bumper cars, and a full cafe and bar menu. We also specialize in group events, kids and adult birthday parties, company parties, sports team parties, and holiday parties. We're located at 322 East James Campbell Boulevard in Columbia. Call us today at 931-381-BOWL or visit us at 10pin.com. 10 Pin Alley, it's where the good times roll.
In today's uncertain world, you can never be too careful about your family's financial future. That's why the Parker Group, a part of Baird's Private Wealth Management, is offering a free second opinion on your financial plans. Let us review your current plan, and we will identify any gaps and offer suggestions to improve it. Please call the Parker Group at 931-548-3737. That's 931-548-3737. Robert W. Baird and Company Incorporated does not offer tax or legal advice.
This is Mark Curry at the Trailer Store. We are a local, family-owned business. Every day, I work with my wife, Susie, my mother, Becky, and my son, Justin. We offer a full line of lawnmower trailers, utility trailers, stock trailers, and a full line of trailer parts. We also offer service. Come see us at 1021 New Lewisburg Highway. Call us at 931-381-2795. That's 931-381-2795.
Farmer Johnny here, Taylor Family Farm. I want to give y'all a little look-see. We raise 100% non-GMO, grass-fed beef, pasture chicken, and pork on our family farm. Everything that we grow is raised with love and care to ensure the highest quality and nutrition for our family and customers. You can shop online at TaylorFamilyFarmTN.com or visit our farm store in person at Etheridge, Tennessee at 301 Dave Reisner Road. That's TaylorFamilyFarmTN.com for more information.
Hi, I'm Kelly Dobson, owner of Caring Hearts Home Healthcare here in Columbia. For over 20 years, we've proudly served our community, locally owned and operated, providing trusted care you can count on. We support seniors, individuals with disabilities, and even short-term care after surgery. From personal care to homemaking and companionship, our team is here to help you or your loved one live safely and comfortably at home. Call Caring Hearts today at 931-381-5470 or stop by in person, 1121 Trotwood Avenue here in Columbia.
Hello, I'm Rick Whitley.
And I'm Daniel Pollard from Jones & Lang Sporting Goods. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the many years of support. Since 1966, Jones & Lang has been locally owned and operated and supplying teams from T-ball to college. Stop by and see what we can do for you. We offer a wide variety of services from silk screening and embroidery to our custom trophy and awards department.
We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to noon. Remember, Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Hello, my name is Zach Maddox. I'm a proud third-generation owner-operator of Columbia Paint and Wallcover, founded by my grandfather, Ralph Maddox, in 1946. We offer a variety of paint and wallcovering products, but our passion is customer service. We can offer many personalized services and can come out to your house or business if needed. Come visit us at our Columbia location or our new Spring Hill location behind Church of the City, or visit us online at paintcolumbia.com.
This is Coach Devin Simler from Columbia Central Baseball. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
Welcome back into the middle of it. I'm Jeb Hart. I'm happy to be here with you on this Tuesday morning. We got Jason Gillum, Ron Hart, and my boy Clayton Harris in the studio putting the music and
thanks
flaunting the ring.
Well, and thanks also, Jeb, to all the people. You can't see what I can see on my end, but a lot of our viewers from Three Dudes have stuck around for this, so we appreciate it.
Well, if anybody has questions they would like asked, viewer feedback is always encouraged. And I do think that this might be a good way to go about it, just to roll it over. But when we went to the break, we were talking about the Boeing plane that kept crashing because of some programmatic issues. That it's a bit more nuanced. Like, we all know the story more or less, but not nearly as much as someone who lives the life, flies the plane, and does it. So Jason's given us a walkthrough as to what exactly the issue was, what the problems were, and why it might have been mishandled, I guess. Or is it a PR thing?
Right.
You go for it.
So Boeing, when they built this new aircraft, the Boeing Max, right? But the predecessor to the Max was the NG. That was the 737 next generation. And I know I'm old because I remember when that airplane came online, and it was the new thing, and everybody was just, oh, it's so much more fuel efficient, so much quieter, Well, this Max, when Boeing designed this airplane and put it out there, it was a little bit different in the 737 design, because they went from the CFM engines that were normally used on the Boeing 737 aircraft.
CFM? I don't know who that is.
Well, it was a CFM 56, and that was what was used on that version, the next gen aircraft.
Is that the manufacturer, or is that just the?
Yeah, that's the manufacturer. So.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they went from the CFM 56 to this new LEAP engine called the LEAP 1B. And it was a new design, and it was a change in the blades, the fan blades. It was a much bigger engine because it had a lot more air that those new fan blades pulled into the engine section. A lot of people don't understand that in these new generation of jet engines, these LEAP engines, these they call them high bypass turbofans. Okay. Much more thrust is generated in that engine just from air being pulled in by the fans, not going through the burner section, okay, not going through the combustion section being exhausted, just air that bypasses the actual turbine itself. And so it increases the thrust, right? It also increases the fuel efficiency of these engines. So they burn a lot less fuel. They're also very quiet compared to the older engines. And so these engines are getting quieter and producing much more thrust. Well, why is that important? Well, it has a much bigger footprint. Okay. If you were standing in front of this engine nacelle, it would be noticeably different of the size of the engine. So this is where we're getting into the meat of the matter with the Max. Okay. Because they have bigger engines, they have to be mounted more forward, and the aircraft itself has to be on taller landing gear, because the old gear was lower and wouldn't have the clearance necessary to keep those engines off the ground. Okay, so now you move the engines forward. They're farther forward than the engines were on the next gens and the older versions of the 737. So why does that matter? Well, because in a 737 or any under-engine wing-mounted aircraft, okay, if you have an engine that's under the wing, mounted under the wing, one of the characteristics of that is when you apply thrust, it gives a pitch-up moment to the airplane. You don't have to pull back on the yoke. You don't have to do anything. If you're flying in level flight and you've got the autopilot off and you push forward on the throttles, the nose is going to come up. Okay, and that's just physics, the design element of the aircraft. All right, so when we talk about the Boeing Max, one of the systems that was integrated into the Max was called MCAS. Okay, and MCAS is at the heart of the matter of why those two Max aircraft crashed. And MCAS stands for Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. So what it was designed to do is when the airplane
nicely done, by the way. Remembering that's a hell of an acronym. Well done.
Yeah, right. So when you are at a low speed at heavy weight, okay, like you would be during a takeoff, okay, if the airplane starts to stall, all right, the MCAS system is designed to lower the nose. All right, automatically it takes over, boom, it pitches the nose down. Why? Because you have to pitch the nose down to increase airspeed. And airspeed is what gets you out of a stall. So they said, okay, because we have these bigger engines, they produce a lot more thrust, they're a little bit more forward. We need to put something in the airplane to help assist the pilots when the aircraft gets in this situation. If they have this high pitch up moment because of thrust input into the engine, we need to have something that says, hey, the pitch is too high, we're approaching the stall, we need to lower the airplane. Okay, that's the idea. How does it work? Well, a ton of computers that are tied into the angle of attack system on the airplane. The angle of attack system, what that is there's a little wing out there outside of the cockpit, probably never even noticed it, we're only talking a few inches, but that little wing, it moves, it rotates, okay? And that's what gives the pilots in the cockpit their pitch indication. And so we use it all the time. Well, what they built into the MCAS system was they tied it into the AOA, the angle of attack, okay? Again, now remember what I said, these are computers, okay? So Boeing in their design said, well, we want to sell airplanes, and it's incredibly expensive to tie this computer system into our angle of attack, sensors. And, we've got two of them, two angle of attack sensors, one on each side of the airplane. But we don't see a need to connect it to both. We could just put it on one. Well, all of the U.S. air carriers, every one of them said, well, we want to make sure that we have the ultimate redundancy, and none of them elected to buy any MAX aircraft with just one of these MCAS computer systems in it. They wanted to have two, one for each side. Okay, well, why is that important? Well, because we get into interrogation. These computers interrogate themselves, right? If one computer is saying one thing and another computer is saying something else, the computers themselves say, wait a minute, we've got a problem. We're not matching up on our data. So then it interrogates itself to say, well, which is this data right or is this data right? And it would pick the correct data, and then you would have good information.
Is it always the correct data?
Well, that's how the system is designed, right? When you have a redundant system, it interrogates itself. But these airlines were allowed to buy these aircraft with the option of having one. Now, I'm trying to be as basic as I can in my explanation. We could go way into the weeds on all the intricacies of this system and its design, but this is the meat of the matter. And so if they'd had a dual system in those airplanes, it would have probably never happened. But here's the other part of that. Okay, the training. These third world countries don't have the training standards that we have here in America. That's why I tell people all the time, if you're traveling globally, you really need to be careful who you're buying tickets on. It does matter. Okay. And so although you don't hear about many crashes or anything because these airplanes are so sophisticated and so safe, but the training standards are absolutely different. So the pilots, Boeing put this out, and the FAA allowed these airplanes to be put out because the MCAS system was kind of a self-interrogating system. They said, well, we don't really need to train for this because if you get the aircraft in this position, the MCAS system is going to take over and do it anyway, right? Regardless. The problem is they never told anybody how to shut the system down if it was malfunctioning. Now, if you had a dual system, you never had that problem because the interrogating system would take the other one out that if it was given erroneous information. But on a single system, if it was giving you bad information and you didn't know how to shut it off,
oh man,
it would end in the results that we saw, which were two crashes, two fatal crashes.
AI potential problems.
Right. So, and it really gets down to this very basic, almost fundamental action, and that's turning the switches off. The stabilizer trim cutout switches on the 737, which are directly tied to the stabilizer, which, by the way, the MCAS system is manipulating when this angle of attack sensor would show too high of a pitch. the MCAS system was directly tied to the horizontal stabilizer, which would lower the nose, right? It would come up, it would lower the nose, and the airplane would try to get itself out of a stall. Okay, well, we have redundancy in this airplane with runaway trim and all this other stuff that's been on that airplane since its inception. If you have runaway trim, you reach down, you hit the stabilizer trim cutout switches at
Runaway
last
trim causes a
resort.
lot of problems, I'm telling you.
Right. So and there's
That was a sex joke.
other steps. there's others. I know I'm so slow I didn't even catch it. But there's other ways to mitigate. Yeah, there's other ways to mitigate stabilizer trim runaways. But the last resort is if everything else you're doing can't stop it, you just hit the stabilizer trim cutout switches and turn the system off. That was not done in either one of the fatal crashes. So I apologize for that long, drawn out, synopsis of the system, and I tried to keep it very basic. But in a nutshell, that's what happened. And if Boeing would have not
apologize, this show is about actually diving into the real issues that sometimes are not meant for talking head pieces that can be quick hit things like that. That's a nuanced thing that is important. A lot of people have opinions on it without being fully founded in how they actually feel about that stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's an intricate system. It was a design that Boeing put into that aircraft to try to mitigate the exact thing that happened. And the reason it happened was because of lack of training and lack of understanding of the system. And some people blame Boeing for not releasing more information about the system and how that system works.
I blame the runaway trim.
And they did, and they did that. Listen, they did that too because they were trying to mitigate costs for all the airlines. Because if you certify an aircraft as a different type, if it's nuanced in the airplane to such a manner that they can't get it under the same certification as previous variants of that aircraft, you have to have additional training. And additional training in the airline world is extremely expensive.
Does that vary country by country?
It does. Like I said, these third world countries don't have the training standards that we have here at all.
Does Boeing have the liability in like Zimbabwe that they would if it crashed in Seattle?
Well, that's a legal question. I'm not sure. I mean, it could, obviously anything that happens, Boeing is going to be the first place they go to try to lay blame and say, well, it's, if Boeing had done this or done that, this wouldn't have happened. I'm not real sure about that, but I do know that the training standards that you get from some of these third world countries are not nearly what we have mandated here.
Well, again, I thank you so much for going through that because I know that's something I'm so interested in because I've known enough about the story in the crashes in the news and the way it went. I looked into it enough because I was interested, but I had never heard it articulated from a pilot's perspective who's been there. And I think that that's really important to really understand it. So thank you really for doing that. That was not long-winded. That was what it needed to be.
Well, I appreciate it, and the airlines are always trying to make the most efficient aircraft, right, and save the airlines the most money because at the end of the day, that's who their customers are, and that's how they sell these airplanes. And so, when you're talking about airplanes that are approaching the $100 million mark, they try to keep the cost of production down as low as they can. And it's an interesting conundrum to me because they want to design the airplanes to hold as many people as they can to burn as least amount of fuel possible to keep the certifications the same so it doesn't cost money and training and all these other things that come along with that. So they put plugs in these fuselages and they keep making the airplanes longer, right? They put more seats in them and then they put bigger engines on them and they say, well, now we've got bigger engines, we got to raise the landing gear. Now that the airplane sits a little different, it's a little higher. Some of the characteristics of the aircraft in flight change, even if it's very nuanced, there's little changes. And so they tried to mitigate one of those nuanced changes with this MCAS system. And I think the rollout, if it would have been done a little bit different, would have prevented these two crashes.
Speaking of
Do
saving,
you think that you could do a barrel roll?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. No doubt. No doubt.
In a
Smoothly.
747 or a big plane, you do
Smoothly. Yes,
yeah.
sir. Smoothly.
The passenger would not like it.
Well, they probably wouldn't like it, but if you did it right and wasn't looking out the window, they wouldn't even know.
I think the element of surprise would be key.
Like, you got to make sure they're cool. You got to be like, all right, you guys down with this? We're about to try some. Just read the room.
You can't be serving that bad food during this whole time.
Right. It's been demonstrated many, many times. If you maintain a positive G throughout the roll, and if you weren't looking out the window, you wouldn't even know you were upside down.
But Kennedy, right? JFK.
Centripetal force slowly enough.
Right. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen it demonstrated, but Bob Hoover did it. And a gentleman that I know personally, he's no longer with us, but he's probably one of the best pilots that I ever had the honor of sharing a cockpit with. His name was Raymond P. Wentling. And at the time, he had a type rating in every category of major large category jet that was flying. I mean, he was I was trained by him just for a few days, but I will always remember his training, and he was by far the best pilot I've ever been in the cockpit with, and he could do just like Bob Hoover, and this was demonstrated to me in a Beach jet. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a small private jet. It's rear-mounted engines, but at any rate, he set a cup of water on the glare shield. And that's the same as a dashboard in a car. We call it a glare shield. But anyway, he set a cup of water on there, rolled the airplane, and not a drop of water came out of that cup. And that's because he maintained a positive G throughout the roll. So yes,
JFK Jr., that's over in Nantucket. I think he was flipped over in Saratoga, and he didn't know he's upside down. He's trying to fly IFR in the clouds, and they said he was upside down. He didn't know it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. He was completely disoriented.
Lack of training too.
Well, he was flying at night, and if you're flying at night and you're not, you don't have the experience,
Also, what got him was that runaway. Late trim. His sister-in-law was running late.
Okay, you're trying to land that plane, pun intended. Let's all pin it all together. Yes, he was trying to impress a woman, flipped upside down.
Yeah,
there was trim involved, both aeronautically and female. Mistakes were made. That's why you got to keep your head on a swivel.
Girl you dated in high school a little bit. Then her dad from Chattanooga flipped a plane trying to impress a woman.
From Atlanta. I do not want to disparage anyone, but he told a girl that he could take her to a nice steak dinner in New York and took off on a plane and then hit trees.
Yeah.
That's not good. Again, there's a bad aviation joke that goes something like this. The one flight you don't ever take is the JFK to JFK Jr.
Yeah. That's going to that one. The other joke is what JFK Jr. misses the most about. What JFK Jr. misses the most about Nantucket is the runway.
Oh my.
That's the case probably where the guy was got passed by his instructors probably because he was JFK Jr. Devilishly good looking, and Kennedy, and they probably said, "Okay, you're good. So instructors have to tell people that aren't good that they aren't good, right? I mean that's the problem.
Yeah,
the air doesn't know DEI, it doesn't know if you're JFK Jr. Physics is physics, right? Aerodynamics is aerodynamics. They don't know who you are. He clearly wasn't trained to do
right. Oh yeah, exactly.
So King Air, known for the colloquially speaking, a doctor killer, because it's one of those things that people who are really accomplished, people who understand metrics and like checking the boxes, doing things, who are very smart, have a very hard time recognizing when they're not good at something or when something is bigger than they are. And there's a humility that has to come with that. Like flying a plane, it has to be like, this is the physics of the world. I'm existing in this, and these are the things. I'm not above it. I'm not better than it. But you also you cannot assume you know more than the thing. which is why people like the King Air, the Doctor Killer, because they're like,
Yeah,
all
well,
right,
it's the Malibu's because Malibu's the Doctor Killer because it's a powerful single engine. And it's the if you're single engine rated, the Malibu's the fastest, best one you get, and the doctors buy it, and they used to be called the Doctor Killer because their doctors were going down left and right in it because it was overpowered, it's faster than people think that was single engine. So it's a 172 Cessna is just puttering along with 120 miles an hour max, maybe 90. But this thing's
Right, and those are they're inherently stable too. A
right.
172, if you stall that airplane and you don't do anything, if you're at a high enough
it'll fix
altitude,
itself.
it'll fix itself. A Malibu or a
Yeah.
VTEL Bonanza, you put that in a stall.
Saratoga is what RFK,
Yeah,
I mean
Saratoga.
JFK Jr.
If you don't know what you're doing in that aircraft, you're done. I mean, you have to know how to correct a spin or a stall in those airplanes. So, there's a nomenclature that goes with what you're saying, Jeb. There's old pilots and there's bold pilots, but there's no old bold pilots. And that holds true because, like you're talking about, these guys, aviation can be inherently dangerous if you're not on top of your game. And
if you look at these crashes, it's almost invariably a 50-year-old man, pretty successful in business, trying to fly his family or someone to somewhere to ski or something. It's almost invariably the same thing. Run out of fuel. Human error is almost always the deal. And so
you have to maintain, and you said this, and it's true. And I tell myself this all the time, and I tell the young guys that are coming up behind me now, because obviously I'm at the upper end of the spectrum here, but I tell guys all the time, humility is key in being an airline pilot. If you want to be a professional, and it's not just in pilot, being a pilot, it's everything. If you don't have humility, you are setting yourself up for failure.
We are at the half-hour break, and we're going to come back for our last segment in just a moment. I cannot thank y'all enough for being here with me.
I got to run, buddy. I got to run to something, but thank you.
All right. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll see y'all in just a few.
This is Coach Tredarius Goff from Columbia Central High School football. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
We at Hollins Pharmacy must be doing something right. We've been providing pharmaceutical services in the Middle Tennessee area for over 60 years. The guiding principles of our business are fast, accurate, friendly, personal service. We do not have long waiting lines, and our phone calls are answered by a staff member. We strive to get to know our customers by name, not just a date of birth or number. We are your locally owned hometown pharmacy, and we appreciate your business. We urge you to come visit us at Hollins Pharmacy, 1608 Hatcher Lane here in Columbia.
Hey, this is Derek Ransom with 10 Pin Alley, voted #1 family entertainment center in Murray County. We offer 32 bowling lanes, giant arcade, laser tag, bumper cars, and a full cafe and bar menu. We also specialize in group events, kids and adult birthday parties, company parties, sports team parties, and holiday parties. We're located at 322 East James Campbell Boulevard in Columbia. Call us today at 931-381-BOWL or visit us at 10pin.com. 10 Pin Alley, it's where the good times roll.
In today's uncertain world, you can never be too careful about your family's financial future. That's why the Parker Group, a part of Baird's Private Wealth Management, is offering a free second opinion on your financial plans. Let us review your current plan, and we will identify any gaps and offer suggestions to improve it. Please call the Parker Group at 931-548-3737. That's 931-548-3737. Robert W. Baird & Company Incorporated does not offer tax or legal advice.
This is Mark Curry at the Trailer Store. We are a local, family-owned business. Every day, I work with my wife, Susie, my mother, Becky, and my son, Justin. We offer a full line of lawnmower trailers, utility trailers, stock trailers, and a full line of trailer parts. We also offer service. Come see us at 1021 New Lewisburg Highway. Call us at 931-381-2795. That's 931-381-2795.
Farmer Johnny here, Taylor Family Farm. I want to give y'all a little look-see. We raise 100% non-GMO, grass-fed beef, pasture chicken, and pork on our family farm. Everything that we grow is raised with love and care to ensure the highest quality and nutrition for our family and customers. You can shop online at TaylorFamilyFarmTN.com or visit our farm store in person at Etheridge, Tennessee at 301 Dave Reisner Road. That's TaylorFamilyFarmTN.com for more information.
Hi, I'm Kelly Dobson, owner of Caring Hearts Home Healthcare here in Columbia. For over 20 years, we've proudly served our community, locally owned and operated, providing trusted care you can count on. We support seniors, individuals with disabilities, and even short-term care after surgery. From personal care to homemaking and companionship, our team is here to help you or your loved one live safely and comfortably at home. Call Caring Hearts today at 931-381-5470 or stop by in person, 1121 Trotwood Avenue here in Columbia.
Hello, I'm Rick Whitley.
And I'm Daniel Pollard from Jones & Lang Sporting Goods. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the many years of support. Since 1966, Jones & Lang has been locally owned and operated and supplying teams from T-ball to college. Stop by and see what we can do for you. We offer a wide variety of services from silk screening and embroidery to our custom trophy and awards department.
We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to noon. Remember, Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Hello, my name is Zach Maddox. I'm a proud third-generation owner-operator of Columbia Paint and Wallcover, founded by my grandfather, Ralph Maddox, in 1946. We offer a variety of paint and wallcovering products, but our passion is customer service. We can offer many personalized services and can come out to your house or business if needed. Come visit us at our Columbia location or our new Spring Hill location behind Church of the City, or visit us online at paintcolumbia.com.
This is Coach Devin Simler from Columbia Central Baseball. You are listening to 101.7 WKOM in Columbia, Tennessee.
I'm Gabe Howard, and my time in the United States Marine Corps shaped who I am. The Marine Corps taught me discipline, responsibility, and that leadership means putting mission and people before self. Those lessons have guided me as a husband, father, small business owner, and county commissioner. As Maury County Mayor, I'll bring that same servant leadership, accountability, and determination to fight for taxpayers and our future. I'd be honored to earn your vote. Paid for by Gabe Howard for Maury County Mayor, Stephen Brown, Treasurer.
Columbia, your Love's travel stop just got a whole lot better. We've modernized our space at 1624 Bear Creek Pike at exit 46 to bring you more of what you want with fuel discounts, additional food offerings, and everything you need to hit the road with ease. Come say hi at the remodeled Loves in Columbia. We thank you for allowing us to be a part of your community. Safe travels.
Mini Cooper, Volvo, BMW, Land Rover, Jaguar. Hi, I'm David Usselton, owner of Usselton Motorworks Foreign Car Repair, located in Columbia, Tennessee. We're at the corner of West 12th and South High Street. We offer a 5-year, 50,000-mile warranty on all repairs. Come see us in Columbia, Tennessee, or call us at 931-215-1765, or visit us on the web at usseltons.com.
Are you thinking about a new fence? Maybe you need a pole barn? Then you should give Sands Fence Company a call. That's 931-309-1644. Will Sands has built his business based on the principles of honesty, quality, and integrity. Sands Fence Company has been in business for over 20 years, providing their community with farm, residential, and commercial fencing, as well as pole barns and buildings. Call today for a free estimate. Sands Fence Company, 931-309-1644. That's 931-309-1644.
Welcome back into the middle of it. I'm Jeb Hart. I'm happy to be here with you on this Tuesday, the 26th. I got Clayton Harris in the studio playing a little Elton John, being smooth with it. And Jason Gillum has been kind enough to stick around and regale us with tales of aviation and fighting against gravity. Uh, I really do appreciate you being here. It's been a really fun conversation about some of
Oh,
the.
well, I appreciate you having me on. That's I wasn't expecting this, and it's been interesting. Now you did burn some of my brain cells for the day, so I'm gonna have to recharge of that end of the thing. But
I hope you're not flying later. I don't want. I need you to be at full capacity.
yeah, no, that's tomorrow. I have a trip starting tomorrow, so
So you can reset. I won't bother you until then. Um,
it's fine.
no, all I've been so during this conversation, there's been like four things that I'm trying to like get. I almost died in a plane crash, um, on a Piper Matrix, and it made me write this list of rules for. It's something that I want to do on the show that I'd kind of forgotten about. I talked to Clayton about it kind of when we started this, and I've gone away from it. But my wife and I were going to her brother's wedding, and we were flying in a Piper Matrix, and it was the same pilot we had had for a long time. And he is the most stoic dude ever. We had been struck by lightning in a plane before, and he was so unbothered. Like it was fine. And we were going up, leaving out of Chattanooga, trying to go to Oxford, Mississippi for this wedding. And we were at 1,500 feet, and it felt like it was lurching, like kind of like in the same way
Right,
like an old
right.
beat up car would like. And he turns like again, this is a man who I was freaking out when we got hit by lightning, and it did not bother him at all. He turned back to us and goes, "That doesn't feel right, does it?" At 1,500 feet. And I'm like, "Yeah, that's not great, man. It's not great. Don't love it." So he had to do like a stall drop back. And Erin, my wife, was basic 9 months pregnant
Oh
with
no.
Hamilton. So like my life flashed before my eyes. There was that weird moment of like, hell, if we go down, we're all here, so whatever. But that's what did make me write like the rules for life for Hamilton and Aldridge that I kept on my phone. But that basically the fuel pump burned as we were going up, and it
Oh
wasn't
wow.
like as we were going up, like a plastic portion of the fuel pump like melted, and he did an unbelievable job, like at 1,500 feet, side stalling it, going back, like reverse. And I did get to hear him like talk over the radio and say Mayday, which was really cool. In retrospect, it was not fun at the time. Um, it's a cool story to tell now. At the time, not fun. And I was like, it's June, it's not May. And that was not the critique he wanted to hear. Um, but but there's just so many moments. Like I said, most of it is those the crashes and things like that are operator error. In this one, it was plastic error, and then he flew it back. But is
Yeah,
it
right.
what is the closest that you have ever been to like a kaboom?
Probably the incident I explained in Nashville when I lost that engine. I was very close to the ground. We'd just taken off.
What was
You
your
know, we were
altitude?
we were heavy. When the engine let go, I was at about 700 feet,
Oh, good Lord.
Oh man.
and so I had just taken off and very heavy. It was at night. It was interesting dynamic. So the props on those airplanes are designed to feather. And for people who aren't in aviation and don't understand what that means, it's basically if you had a boat paddle and you stuck it out the windshield or the window of your car, okay, and you had the broadside of that paddle facing the direction you were traveling. There's an enormous amount of force that hits against that paddle, right? But if you just turn it 45 degrees and now it's gone from a vertical to a horizontal, it streamlines through the wind and you can move it back and forth with no force at all. Well, a prop in an airplane is designed that same way. If you have an engine failure, instead of having those propellers sitting out there with the flat part of the propeller against the direction of the wind, okay, they feather, they move to where now the narrow edge, okay, is into the wind, so there's almost no drag. Well, the the particular instance that I had, the engine came apart so fast, all the oil was immediately blown out of the engine. There wasn't any oil left to feather the prop. So I had an enormous amount of drag sitting out there. I was at heavyweight, low airspeed, low altitude, and so I had to work. Let me just put it to you that way. I had to work, and again, you don't have time to be scared because you're flying the airplane.
Did you hear it or feel it first?
But it was almost simultaneous, man. The cylinder, the jugs really came through the block is what happened. The engine basically shredded itself, and so it was immediate, and it was definitely a catastrophic failure of that engine, and it was instantaneous. So the sound, the drag, the shudder of the airplane, everything happened almost simultaneously.
Is that why you don't have hair?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, that did it.
We got to ask the big questions here. I mean, we got to get in. We got to get into
Right.
it. No, so yeah, I guess like the feeling, because that's the thing is like like I said, when Mike, the pilot of the Matrix, when it went out, he was like, that doesn't feel right. Like it, like you've done it for so long, you
Oh,
know
yeah.
what it's supposed to do, you know what it's not supposed to do, you know what it's supposed to feel like, and you know when you're like that is not humming at the same tune.
Yes. Yeah, that we always talk about the big picture in aviation, we do the same thing over and over, right? Every day. It's monotonous at times almost. But you have to maintain a strict adherence to the checklist. You don't skip items, even though you've done it a bazillion times. I have the checklist in my head. I can spout them off just instantly, but you never rely on that redundancy of knowledge. You always refer to your checklist. And so when you talk about big picture, you know the sounds, every aspect of flight, what the airplane sounds like, what it's doing. So if there's any little nuance it's off, you pick it up. Your senses really pick it up because you do become kind of a part of the airplane, if so to speak.
Jason, where were you September the 11th? And talk about, since then, you guys are allowed to carry in the cockpit, are you not?
And why did you teach those guys how to fly?
Yeah, right. Listen,
Just throwing an accusation out there with no grounding.
yeah, well, no, I mean, that it's true. A lot of foreign nationals come to the United States specifically for flight training because we do have some of the best flight training in the world here. And so there's a lot of schools that these guys can go to. And then, being the United States, the people that we offer foreign nationals, incentives to come over here to get their flight training. And so, and then they take that training and they go back to their, wherever they came from. But September 11th, I was a pilot. I was actually technically at American Airlines on September 11th. I was a pilot for Trans World Airlines. That was my first major airline job, was TWA. Some of the younger folks probably don't even remember that airline, but
when did they go out of
remember
business?
well, American bought TWA January of 2001. And so I was at TWA when that acquisition occurred. And so, I became an American Airlines pilot virtually overnight because they bought TWA. So when September 11th had happened, I had flown the day before. I had just gotten home that night. And so I was in bed asleep when my phone started ringing off the wall because, my family, everyone that was close to me knew I was flying for American. And of course, they were, at the heart of what was happening on 9/11. So everybody wanted to know where I was, if I was at home, if I was okay. And of course, it was really something that none of us will ever forget. It's kind of like the space shuttle when the the space shuttle Columbia. Yeah, when it blew up, everybody remembers where they were when that happened. If you were on this planet, you remember where you were that day, and of course we all remember where we were on 9/11. And so anyway, I was at home in bed and was woke up by my phone ringing off the hook.
Well, is it Ronnie's not well, his camera is still on, but he is not here. He was like of all the things in the world, he was flying into New York and was circling it and saw the smoke. Because
Really?
it's a
Wow.
story worth telling. And then he couldn't get back because there weren't planes going, and so he tried. My sister was about to be was going to be 15 years old, so he was going to try. He tried to buy this Volkswagen Beetle that she could drive because they couldn't rent cars. Like the whole thing was bizarre,
Right.
and he was just in the middle of it. I was at a camp for a sixth grade retreat at Greystone, and the guy had a so I went to school at a place called Woodward Academy, and it's right by the airport in College Park, in Atlanta.
Okay. I know. I actually know where that's at. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. One
It's
of the things you don't know about me is I played soccer in high school and went on to play in college, and I went to a camp at Oglethorpe University, and I was based in Atlanta for years as a pilot. So I'm familiar with Woodard. I know where that's at. That's interesting. I didn't know you went there.
Yeah, so when we drove back from camp, so we were at this camp. No one had cell phones really, like one or two kids. I think I don't want to blow his name. David, I'm not going to say his last name. He had a flip phone, and but we were just in the woods and didn't know what was going on. And I went in to help out and some to the main area uh, where they kind of had like the hub of the logistics, and the people who were in charge were there at this camp, and they had a TV. It was the only place. And someone said the phrase, a plane flew into the World Trade Center. And I went back and told my teacher a plane flew into the World Trade Center. And he goes, "Oh, that happened in the early 90s. It was a Cessna and a guy, it was foggy." And he was telling a story about like when that had
Yeah.
happened before. So
Yeah.
there's like a weird miscommunication. I was like, I don't think it was a Cessna. And he was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "No, it seemed more than that." I was again, I was hearing about it the
Yeah.
first time
Right. Right.
in the woods, and like he started to panic. Everybody started to panic, and
Wow.
then we were sitting there. The weirdest thing was we drove back on a bus because we were at this retreat, and since we were next to our school's so close to Hartsfield, we had to drive past it.
Right.
And driving past Hartsfield International Airport, the busiest airport on the planet, and
Uh-huh.
seeing nothing, no
Right.
planes moving.
Right.
No, it was the eeriest
Right.
thing I have. You take it for granted, just like ants move, like it just is. It always is. It always was.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to add to this because, and it was just a fluke. It was not planned. It was just the way it was. But the way that my schedule worked, I was one of the very first flights reinstituted in the United States after 9/11. We were taking off from St. Louis, where I was based, and flying to Raleigh, North Carolina. And the day before that flight, my chief pilot called and he said, "Hey, you're on schedule tomorrow. We think your flight is going to go. We need to make sure that you are here, that you report to work." He said, "I can't guarantee you're going to fly, but you need to be here." And I was like, "Yes, sir. I'll be there. It's my trip." I had to drive to St. Louis because there were no flights. And so I
Oh
drove to
shit! Yeah.
St. Louis. Yeah, right. I didn't have any way to get to work, right? I was based in St. Louis, lived here. And so I had to drive to St. Louis and report for work. And I did. And I mean, right up until the time that, we were scheduled to take off, where there was no certainty. There were 20 people at the gate for that flight to go to Raleigh. And it was, you talk about eerie. So our flight, we were allowed to depart. One of the reasons I think that we were allowed to go was because at that time in St. Louis, they had a huge F-15 base, an air guard base there, F-15s. So we took off. We had a fighter escort um, all
Wait,
the
for
way,
real?
yeah, all the way to Raleigh, North Carolina.
Wow.
And we were the only airplane in the air. It was it. I will never experience anything like that again. I hope. But it was so strange because the minute that we left the runway in St. Louis, they cleared us direct to Raleigh, North Carolina. And as you know, anybody that's around aviation, that does not happen. You
That's
don't
not a
take off
thing.
from,
That's not a
yeah,
thing.
you, right. You don't take off from a major airport and say, yeah, you can go fly direct to your
Yeah,
destination.
just pop by.
Yeah, yeah, right, right. So to talk about what just to you kind of segue into what you were talking about with no airplanes moving. Yeah, to be one of the first flights, we might have actually been the first flight back in the air after 9/11. It was real. It was surreal.
That is wild.
Yeah,
So the F-16s, do they take off with you, or do they meet you when you were at
they were F
altitude?
they were F-15s, and no, they took off after us. But you can imagine. I mean, the speed that those planes can travel. They were on us in just a matter of minutes after we took off. They were right by our side and
Were
followed
you
us to
talking to
Raleigh.
them?
It was no, no, we weren't verbally communicating. They were just there, just
Oh,
flying
that's got to
alongside
be
us.
bizarre.
It was a strange thing. It really, really was, and was it necessary? I mean, no, not really, but it was the whole, uh, just the dynamic of the moment, the time frame that we were in. We had a fighter escort. It was
Yeah,
really wild.
the fact that y'all didn't like, did you? I'm just fascinated by the fact that you weren't able to verbally communicate with them. Like, did you know that they were going to be there? They're like, by the way, because like, if you took off for your trip tomorrow, and then there was two F-15s next to you without context, I know
Yeah.
this is different, but
Right.
like if they just popped up, you would have reasonable questions
Yeah.
without any heads up. Did you know that they were going to be there?
No, we had no idea. We had no idea that
So you're
we
just
were.
like, oh, just fighter jets, cool.
Yeah, we're exactly. Yeah. And so they just pulled up. And, when I say alongside, they weren't, right off our wingtip like you would see a Blue Angel or a Thunderbird. They were about probably a mile or less, horizontally away from us. Definitely close enough that you could see them. You knew that they were there. But they just flew alongside. They were just kind of there to, I guess, protect, from whatever, after 9/11, and it was a different environment. But being the first flight up, I guess that was why they felt it was necessary. But we did not have any communication with them at all. They just were alongside and stayed with us the entire flight.
That is fascinating. Just,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, every aspect of that is incredibly interesting. Being the first ones up, the timing, like the gate being kind of empty, and then you said 20 something people on a
Yeah.
plane
Yeah.
that was
Yeah. Right.
probably
Because nobody really knew whether the flight was actually going to depart or not. It was just a last, I guess, up to a last minute thing, and I'm sure that the State Department had something to do with that. They were involved. Everybody probably from a government level like that, the FAA and everybody else had involvement in that decision. But we were allowed to depart, and so it was. But it was a weird day. That was a weird day.
I mean, I can't imagine, you know, being one of the 20 people who, for whatever reason, given everything, needed to get to Raleigh that bad or whatever it may be, and then just popping your head out of a window and being like,
Well, and as
that's a
you were,
jet.
yeah. Well, if there was a directive that came across the airliner in the air to land immediately. So, from an airline perspective, we had aircraft and air crew scattered all over the place, all over. I mean, destinations.
What did your friends who were pilots who were in the air? Because obviously you said like you weren't in the air when it happened, like,
Right.
because that's something that goes across to everyone immediately. Like, get on the ground
It
now.
went on. You know,
How
when,
was it relayed to them to where? Because that's something you've never gotten over the horn before.
right.
Like,
So,
get on the ground now, everybody.
yeah, land at the nearest suitable airport immediately.
Did they explain it? What was going on, or
No,
like?
no, it was a directive that came across. We have what they call ACAR systems, and every airline has them, the ACARs, and it's basically an automated challenge response system. Basically, is what it stands for. It's a system where you don't have to talk on the radio. You actually get a message on the screen, and we can talk to our dispatch, and all that. And so anyway, we got the communications via ACARS, it just a teletype, if you will, that came up, and you look down on your screen, you get a ding, it dings, you got a message, you look down, and it says, National Security Directive, land at the nearest suitable airport immediately. And
Do other pilots like talk to each other to be like, do you know what the hell's going on?
yeah, well, they'll, yeah, those messages go out through dispatch. You contact, okay, we're landing, what's going on? And the dispatcher may or may not respond because he's got all these airplanes that he's dealing with, and just it says, hey, national emergency, you got to land. I mean, it's and other pilots going, do you know what's going on? I'm sure around the New York area, they were, transmitting, yeah, that looks like there may be a terrorist attack on the trade center. I'm sure those, because remember now in 9/11 people had cell phones. Even if you remember the Shanksville, Pennsylvania crash, U.S.
Let's
Air.
roll.
Yeah, let's roll. Right, there were people on that airplane that had made abbreviated communication via their phones, saying, "Hey, there's something going on. I love you." Blah blah blah. So there was bits and pieces getting out, but it happened so quick. We had airplanes and air crews scattered everywhere, and it took the airlines days just to figure out where all their air crews were, where their airplanes were, where people were staying, what hotels they were in. Because you got to remember, these airlines, we have contractual agreements with all these hotels. And so when you land at a destination, if you're overnighting there, you have a room. But when you have 5 or 6 airliners that land in an area like I said, Carbondale, Illinois or something, they're not supposed to be there. The hotels aren't expecting them. So these pilots and flight attendants were paying for their hotel rooms out of their pockets to stay in a place because they didn't have any way to get anywhere. It was crazy.
Well, I am so beyond fascinated about your experience of that day and how that goes. We are at the end of our hour. Jason, I cannot thank you enough for being on here. I'd love for you to stick around when you are ever on Three Dudes before. If you ever feel the
Okay.
need, you have an open invitation, doors open.
Well, I
Love talking to you, but we
appreciate it.
are at the end of our time here. I cannot thank y'all enough for being with me, both Clayton, Jason, Ron, wherever the hell he is. And until I see y'all tomorrow, be careful, be kind, and be good.
Thanks a lot,
Rep your
guys.
hood.
Appreciate you.